All right, here we go. We are back once again, ladies and gentlemen, two men in black and white, an honest conversation. And we are, again, following Kankle's McTaco Tits and little J.D. Vance down the yellow brick road into authoritarianism. And you know what? It just gets worse and worse as America continues to avoid each other, continues to avoid difficult conversations, especially when it comes to creating a unified and universal fair message on the left. It's disappointing, it's frustrating, it pisses me off, and it pisses another guy off that I know as well. And we are hearing that Republicans are doing everything they can to stay away from the nation's capital while the shutdown persists. Brock Ganeles joins me now live. The Uptown Point Guard joins us from the friendly confines of the Hudson River Valley. And Brock, these people aren't serious. They're not interested in governing. They're not interested in serving the best interests of the people. They say they care about kids, but meanwhile they're taking SNAP benefits away and cutting free lunch programs. It's all about the brutality and the racism, but they're Christians. I just don't fucking get it. Why a huge swath of America can't wake up to this, and how the MAGA movement has been so successful will be the thing that is studied when our history is examined 100 years from now, if there is still a United States. I don't suspect there will be, but what say you when it comes to the unifying conversations that need to be had?
First thing I want to push back on is I don't think MAGA Project 2025 wants to govern for all of America.
True.
I think they are very targeted on just doing what is best for, kind of white, straight, male America, maybe Christian America. And that is their focus. So it's not even in their head that it's their job or the requirement or the responsibility to govern on the behalf of all of America. Now, I think that's starting to seep into more Americans, but wow, has it taken a long time for people to realize their government doesn't give a shit about most of us. The visuals have been terrible in the last 24 hours for the ICE agents and what's going on in the American streets. I applaud the Chicagoans for their fight. And I think that in essence, by fighting, you create the visuals that America gets to see that makes ICE and this whole Kristi Noem white supremacy army look really bad. And it kind of takes some people getting tear gas, shot at, body slammed, for the rest of America to be like, whoa, this is out of control. Or 3-year-olds being zip tied at 3 in the morning.
That picture,
right?
that picture.
Yeah.
That picture is just disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting.
What agent said I need to zip tie the 3-year-old?
Right. Where is he going to run to? And to whom? To
And
whom shall he run?
And the comment apparently to someone videoing was, fuck these kids, right? Well, so the zip tie, then you had the white guy who got body slammed by the black ICE agent who actually who decided he needed to flip his AK-47 or AR-15, whatever it is, around his neck to the back so he could get in a wrestling match with the white guy. Then, they body slammed him pretty hard, right? So there's all kinds of visuals. I haven't seen footage of the shooting, but supposedly the ICE agents are saying they were jammed in and rammed by 10 cars. Like, I want to see the dents and the carnage then. If there was actually a ramming, a demolition derby ramming of 10 cars. So they're all full of shit. The visuals are actually helping. This is why things need to get more aggressive on the streets. And it sucks because people are going to get hurt. But that's what's going to take to wake up complacent America, I believe.
And Brock, to add insult to injury, they're also repelling in off of helicopters. Like, what the fuck is this? We need military helicopters to drop in on United states, territories, and proper. In Chicago proper, we need a repel exercise to snatch up people who are in their beds. This was, I mean, if you ever watched any of those Bin Laden documentaries, they landed 2 helicopters over his place too and dropped down into his compound. Are we fucking looking for a Bin Laden here? Like, I don't think so. They're not even looking for people with criminal records. They're just looking for people who might be from another country who happen to be in the US. Because remember, their status doesn't even remember. It doesn't even matter, rather. Because they don't go to court. They don't get due process. Nobody's abiding by the law. Where are the fucking lawsuits?
Well, they're stacking up. In Portland, they got a restraint. In Portland, they got like a stay, apparently, a ruling that it's illegal for Trump to send National Guard to Portland. So I think that hasn't happened yet. But the point is, you're sending these troops to every American city. There's not a, quote, Bin Laden type in every city. I mean, as much as Stephen Miller tries to paint the picture that there's this leftist, well-armed army that's fighting against America, it's a lie. It's all built on a lie. This is a white supremacy movement. What I love today, my favorite quote of the day, was that Kate Asbazala basically went on Nicole Wallace and said she thinks Kristi Noem should be brought in front of the Hague. And you know what? That's the rhetoric I want to hear.
Yes.
That's what I want to hear from people.
Yes.
Not soft playing shit. Like, yeah, exactly. These fuckers better watch out.
Yep.
When the pendulum swings.
These
are like war crimes going on right here.
Right, because remember, we're taking, law-abiding citizens and sending them to third-party countries that are only taking them because we're writing them a check. Right? These are not countries that these detainees are affiliated with.
Yeah,
not to mention
yeah.
And not to mention the brutal conditions that we're holding them here under. So this would definitely fly in the face of the Geneva Convention, especially when we're not even in conflict with anybody.
No, it's just we have a psychopath as president who makes up this conflict because he just needs it to feed like the emptiness in himself, right? He just needs the fight and the enemies. So yeah, it's been problematic. I mean, if there's anything encouraging, it's that the visuals, I think, hurt sentiment and basically, MAGA has almost already lost this fight that the shutdown, can be blamed on the left. And then you throw the ICE violence on top of it. Looks like, now there's a siege on America.
Right.
And Chicago's fighting back.
Right.
And May Pritzker, I commend, is a good voice for the fight. Because he didn't just show up yesterday. He's been talking this for a good 6-8 months.
Right.
And now when the fight is on his doorstep, he's a very credible leader.
Yep. And he's not playing games with Trump. He's going to use every lever of power available to him under the state's constitution and under the U.S. Constitution to keep these fuckers out of there. I think J.B. Pritzker has a better read and gauge on the temperature in the city of Chicago than anybody else around, right? Besides the councilmen and aldermen of the city of Chicago. And they're not going to take it. I think we know that.
I still for you today. What would happen if 10,000 people showed up?
Right.
To confront ICE. Not 100, not 200, because even 100 and 200 has been disruptive and has forced them. They're throwing tear gas canisters in front of elementary schools. Like, you just see how unprepared and untrained and undisciplined these ICE agents are, which makes them kind of dangerous.
Right.
Not kind of. Makes them dangerous.
Very dangerous. Right.
But what are they going to do if big numbers show up?
Yeah.
And it feels like it's bubbling. It's bubbling.
You know what's going to happen, Brock, is somebody's going to let off a live round and kill somebody. And then all hell's going to break loose. We'll have our Kent State type of confrontation that'll make us Americans look like fucking idiots the world over.
Apparently, a woman got shot today. She's unstable. She's not critical. I guess she didn't get mortally wounded, and there was no video of it. Right. So it doesn't resonate in the same way.
Right.
But yeah, we got a step closer today. Shots
Yep.
were fired.
Yep. And that's going to continue to happen. The people of Chicago are going to push back. If they ever make it into some of the really tough neighborhoods in Chicago, we will see shootouts. I thought we'd see it in Los Angeles. But again, they didn't go where the heat was. They went to people's places of employment. They went to the garment districts. They went to downtown LA where, it's not heavily residential. They avoided conflict in LA for good reason. Just like they're going to try to avoid it in Chicago. They're not going to go to the places that everyone can identify as, gang areas.
So the South Side and the heavily black populated part of Chicago, the less wealthy, the poor part, not less wealthy, the poor part of Chicago.
Right.
Pretty wealthy city, beautiful city, great city.
Yeah.
But it's got its very, very poverty-stricken neighborhoods.
Right.
And that's where it has the most crime, like everywhere else in the world. The more poverty is, the more crime there is.
Right. But again, they're not there to stop crime. They're there to brutalize. Right? These people aren't going to local jails. They're not going to Cook County Jail. Right? They're not going to Illinois State prisons. They're going to detention facilities, right? With no rights, no due process, and who knows if they'll be heard from again. It's just the luck of the draw.
And nobody's allowed in.
Right. And so again, Brock, I ask you, who do we turn to? Right? MAGA
I don't
Mike
know,
Johnson.
Mark. Before I wanted to talk ICE a little bit, but it's really kind of bothering me today. And this is even in my friend, and maybe we'll call it acquaintance circle, when I just even talk about this podcast that me and you just do whatever, we started by just fucking around 8 or so months ago, and decided to have a conversation between a black guy and a white guy every day and just see where it took us, right? Do we really look at the world differently? We obviously get treated in America very differently.
Right.
But I'm still consistently told, hey, why don't you guys talk about the Super Bowl or the Giants or the baseball playoffs, right? And basically I'm still being told to stay in my lane. Why are you guys talking about political stuff and what's going in society? Who the fuck are you guys to talk about that? You guys know sports, right? You played basketball together back in the day, right? And it just bothered the shit out of me because I finally got to the answer. And I was just like, we talk about society, American society in particular. I live in society.
I do too.
It's my fucking lane. What is going on in this society/country around me matters to me. It is my lane. But then it gets me thinking, it's everybody's lane. Why are you just talking about who the giant quarterback is going to be this week between Jackson Dart and Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston? Why is that a fucking important topic that you're spending a lot of time on? And what me and Mark are doing is out of our lane and not time well spent. And I'm like, no, you're staying in the safe spaces and not confronting the real issues that are going on, even in the white community, not to mention having a conversation across races or cultures. So it's just bothering the shit out of me. It's getting me kind of aggravated with people in my life that I'm like, you don't get it? This is all of our lanes. And I think it leads you to come to the conclusion that's the problem.
It really is, Brock. And it's funny too, because the only people I have, well, it's few and far between of my white friends that have difficulty talking about, because that's why they're my friends, right? Because I can talk to them about this shit, right? About the things that go on. They genuinely care about the experiences that I've had as I navigate the society that we live in, right? Societal navigation, I must become an expert at, or else, I end up with a son in prison, right? That those are the realities. My perception is my reality, right? I rarely talk about the specifics of my son's case, but no one was killed in his case. His crimes were very serious, but no one was killed. They did not, put up a fight. They didn't resist. They were taken into custody without incident. And I've seen much worse in 25 years as an on-air news broadcaster. I've seen much worse. And the amount of time that these two guys got was shocking to me. 30 years do 20 and no one died. People shoot people and get less time than that. So I say that to say, you wouldn't imagine how many kids from the same background go through the same thing, from upwardly mobile families. Me, my boy's mom, great jobs. We feel like we had great careers, put them in nice neighborhoods, in great homes. I mean, I never imagined I'd live in a home like the one I'm in now, or the last several homes we've had. And, it's still not enough to protect us from, the way society looks at us. Like, my skin color should not be a threat, right? And, I find myself constantly trying to minimize myself in perceived, like, for example, at work. When I was working in the television news industry, I didn't want to have to raise my voice about anything because I knew I couldn't, right? I knew it would result in me being, threatening, all the buzzwords.
It would be intimidating to others, right? And therefore you would lose stature because it would be like, you're a problem.
Trying to bully people, yeah. And I'm over 6 foot, good 6'3" now. I'm tall, right? Put on some fat after college, right? A little bit large, right? I raise my voice, and next thing you know, he's a problem. We got to get him out of here. Ain't no way we're re-signing him to another contract, right? And you just see it over and over at the different places that you work. And so, throughout my lifetime, I've been blessed with meeting some amazing people, including a high-ranking CEO that even, brought me in for some consultant gigs on, race and leadership and communication. And, he genuinely wanted his leaders and managers to understand what it's like to be the only one in the room, right? Because many of them have never been. Right? Again, many of them can't look in their phone and say, hey, let me call my African-American friend because, I'm trying to figure out what's going through, one of my middle managers' heads, when we're in our department heads meeting, right? A lot of them can't do that. A lot of them don't even think to do that. And then you have it from the absolute other side where you have African-Americans afraid to pipe in and pipe up for fear that they may be taken out of turn, right? And may be seen as belligerent and not team players and contrarian, So it's really difficult because we refuse to have the kinds of conversations me and you have every day. Now, me and you happen to be on the same side of the political spectrum, but that doesn't mean we can't disagree and not be mad about it afterwards. And America needs to have these conversations, bro.
Yeah, I had someone who asked about the show, but don't you guys agree on a lot of stuff? And it's like, yeah, we generally agree. Well, wouldn't it be better if you disagreed, this and that? I was like, well, I mean, we agree, but we've lived such different lives and we're viewed so differently by the society that we live in, even though we grew up in the same place. We just live and navigate the world, this society, and I guess our world, so differently. That, yeah, we may kind of agree, but we definitely got there in totally different ways and very often for very different reasons.
Yep.
And we still don't really understand the life the other person lived because you can only live one life, right? So you try to understand, you try to, but unless you're in it and really doing it, you don't really know.
Right. I'll never forget, 9/11 and how relieved black people were. Somebody else is going to be under white folks' microscope, right? I bet that thought never even came across your mind.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Right? As a white American, I was living in Michigan where they were
I
very
wasn't worried it was a bunch of white guys that had flown the planes in. Like,
exactly
and even if they had, that anyone would go after white people.
right.
I mean, even as a Jew, I didn't think it was Jews that did it, but even if Jews had done it, maybe I would have been worried. But it wasn't even in the realm of possibility. I was just worried about the threat coming at me, not that in any way I was going to be viewed as a part of the threat. Like it
Right.
I can't even comprehend that.
Right. And black folks were saying, woo, we glad it wasn't some black folks that flew some planes. We don't even know nobody that would fly some planes into some buildings together on the same day at the same time in a coordinated attack on America. So it looks like they're going to be going after Muslims and everything for a while, so that'll give us a break. Right? Like, it's like black people are getting a break, from being the targets of the police microscope and the surveillance microscope in society. And, look, we can't be 13% of the population and 50% of the prison population. It's not possible. It's not possible.
It has to be that has to be a policy, right?
Yes.
That's a game plan, right?
Right. But Charlie Kirk will sit here and tell you that that's, the black programming. Right? Blacks are programmed to be violent and criminal and this, that, and the third. And people believed it. Right? Now, he's not the first one to say it. He won't be the last. But that was his legacy. Right? To run it. He died taking his last breath blaming America for the gun violence problem and gang violence for the gun violence problem in America, being shot by a white man in the next breath. But yet, black violence, black gun violence was to blame for everything wrong with America. That's why they're 50% of the prison population and only make up 13%.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the conversation is all of our lane.
Right.
And we got to take ownership of that, and we got to start like thinking about and assessing and analyzing what's going on around us. And to a certain extent, understand how we got to this point and how we allowed, because there's always been this faction of America, right? But how we allowed it out of the shadows and out of being fringe to a mainstream, and then to go from not just mainstream to go to be the ruling ethos of the great American democracy, to have a ruling ethos that has a Stephen Miller who's kind of like a puppeteer behind the scenes, who really genuinely believes that this needs to be like racially cleansed. This country needs to be racially cleansed. And now and ICE is running around. It's not indiscriminate, right? If you look brown or black or you're speaking Spanish, you're a target. They don't care, citizen. They'll maybe figure out citizen a week from now, 2 weeks from now, maybe a month from now. But in the moment, you're, quote, guilty. You're the enemy within. And how did we get here? We got here because we didn't have conversations along the way. We weren't honest about things. We just wanted to talk about the Real Housewives and the football game and what television shows are on and this and that. And we didn't talk about what was really going on in society. And because no one would acknowledge that, I shouldn't say no one, not enough people would acknowledge that making America better and more fair and more just and more democratic was their lane.
Yep.
We get to here, and it's why fucking nobody votes, right? We're the democracy with shitty voter turnout because people are too busy, which has always been horseshit to me. No one's fucking too busy. You're on your staring at your phone so much. You can you can stare at your phone online. You got 10 minutes to fucking vote. Tell me you're too busy.
Right. Don't tell me you're too busy when you got a fucking pair of AirPods that you could stick in your fucking ears and stand online for 30 minutes. It's a joke. When my parents were young adults, they did not have the right to vote. So don't sit here and tell me, you're too busy. A lot of people died for these rights of ours. And, that's when I really clued in. Right after the Million Man March was about the time I started to grow up and realize just how different things were. in America and how important it was to see 1 million black men, right, gather in one place. No violence, no difficulties, no neighborhood versus neighborhoods, no factions against other factions, not being pitted against each other. And, and that's what, you'll have in a lot of, these settings, right? Like, different areas versus different areas, right? How many times have we heard about, just cities in Westchester, that have beef with each other? For what? Why?
Meaningless bullshit.
Yeah.
Meaningless bullshit. I got a text today from the No Kings marches. I think I must have signed up for something about, which I really liked, which was about like, hey, every one of us needs to get at least one or two other people who haven't been out there yet to get out there and protest
Right.
on the 18th.
Right.
And I thought that was a good because, they think they want to get to 3.5% of the population out there,
Right.
which would be, I don't know, 20, 30 million people. To me, it's got to be way more than that. But I got the point, and it gets back to the whole thing on voting is like, I don't fucking want to hear from anyone who tells me they're too busy to protest on October
at all.
18th. Get your ass out there for at least an hour or two. No one's too busy to show feet on the street if it matters to you at all. Plan in
Right.
advance
Right.
and find something. There's something local for everyone. It's not going to be a heavy lift. And if you can't do that, if you think protesting's not your lane either, like, what is your lane then? Just sitting at home hoping that this fascist regime doesn't get to you because you think it's not going to happen?
Well, Brock, what about your children? What kind of legacy are you leaving for your children? That's what I worry about. My black granddaughter, my soon to be here second black granddaughter, my 2 black
Oh,
grandbaby
really?
boys.
Oh, pregnant? There's be another one on the way?
Got another one on the way, so we're excited about that. What are we leaving for them? We're not leaving better lives for them right now, right? With the death of expertise, right? The pulling back of education. You know how much it costs to send your kid to a prep school now? I mean, who's going to be able to afford? What are parents going to work 4 full-time jobs? Ain't enough time
I
in a
need
day.
decent public schools. Look, we cut research. We're not like we've decided curing cancer doesn't matter to us anymore. We got measles outbreaks again. Yeah. The fact that it's going to be 82 degrees up here tomorrow, which may be the warmest October 5th in recorded history. Like, okay, it's quote warm fall. No, it's still summer in Europe and up here in the Northeast, where it's like, oh, I might feel like it was a nice day today for a run, but like, this is unnatural. That's
Right.
global warming. It shouldn't be this warm this time of year.
Right.
Like,
This was
where's
sweatshirt
fall?
season.
Fall
Yeah.
hasn't happened yet. It's still t-shirt and shorts weather in the Northeast, right?
Whoa.
So, yeah, we're leaving them a horrendous thing. What I hope is, I hope your son gets out there and marches. I hope he realizes and recognizes that he needs to show his presence out there because this is affecting him because it's his society. We're going to be dead soon.
Yep.
I'm hoping for that. But at the least, everyone 50 and older, because we know better and we ain't that fucking busy anymore, better have their asses out there.
Exactly. All right, bro.
That
You
is
got
our
a
lane.
kid for me?
You go first for me. I had one, now I forgot. My quick hit of the day is my disappointment of the day is that clip of the black ICE agent in Chicago body slamming the white guy. Not that I'm racial about the black guy threw him to the ground, although he had help from like 2 other ICE agents. I just was like, come on, black guy, don't take the job at ICE. Like, they're gonna turn on. I know the paycheck's nice. I know the bonuses. I get the economics. You can't be a part of that.
My, how the tables have turned from the 60s, huh? I didn't see a whole lot of black Alabama state troopers there marching with Bull Connor. For a paycheck.
Yeah, that
That
was disappointing.
And Brock, and while we're on Alabama, when we think back to the basics of the civil rights movement, what moved the needle? The Memphis bus boycott. When black people got off that bus and stopped putting their coins in that.
No, Montgomery, right? Montgomery.
Bus boycott.
Yeah.
Yep. When black people stopped putting their coins in the little change box, wow, that really got a whole lot of attention, didn't it? Same thing needs to be happening today. And that's why we need young people at the No Kings March on the 18th. And that's why we need to have people talking to each other and trying to understand what each other is going through culturally. I mean, we don't understand each other culturally. I didn't even know we had Jews on our basketball team until somebody pointed it out during a timeout.
Because it didn't. Well, because it didn't really matter. We weren't theologians back there talking about religious theory on the bus ride to games, right?
Right.
Like it didn't matter to us. And we weren't talking about race either. Maybe we could have been, should have been.
Right.
But we were making connections and relationships that maybe, helped us navigating and led us back to this moment too. Yeah, economically we got to put our money where our mouth is and start just only spending money with anything that aligns with our values and start making more of these corporations feel the pain because they think we're too lazy and complacent. We've been talking about that for a while. Look, the 18th is 14 days away. That's going to feel like a lifetime.
Yep.
But if we don't start making big showings and then what are we doing? Then we're accepting.
Yeah.
Then
They're
we're accepting.
winning, and we're accepting.
Then we're accepting it.
Yeah, we're accepting autocracy. So that's what it is, bro. All right, my friend. Sounds good. Let's pack it in. We'll do it again tomorrow.
All right. Always a pleasure, Mark.
Out and proud.
Take care. Talk to you tomorrow.
Peace.
Sayonara.